Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, Zevachim Kufyud Beis. We begin 11 lines from the top of the Amud. So it's back to the Mishnah, which teaches us that the halacha of Mala Bachutz, the Isser to offer material outside the Beis HaMikdash, only pertains to material which is suitable for the inside. So, for instance, if he has two containers of dam, of the korban, and one becomes unsuitable, he had already applied the blood of this container in the Beis HaMikdash, rendering the other one as a dochui, rejected, unsuitable. So now if he proceeds and does it outside, he is pater. Likewise, the Mishnah says, it's comparable, it's analogous to a case of a double chatas. So here he goes, putting aside a korban chatas, and oops, it goes missing. And he designates another one in its stead. And then he finds the first one. He has two available. So if he's makriv one inside, the other one is unsuitable and becomes rejected. And likewise, if he does that korban, that one outside, he is pater. So these two scenarios are, in a way, comparable, both dealing with a double korban, phenomenon. Here it's two containers of blood. Here it's two animals, four chatas, and as soon as one becomes dochui, right? So that one becomes unsuitable, and there's no liability if it's offered outside. Now, what's the point of the Mishnah comparing this case to that? What's the lesson embedded in this comparison? What's the point of making this comparison? Hamani Rebbe, the point of the Mishnah is to highlight that this halacha, this scenario regarding the double korban chatas, is in line with Shitas Rebbe. Damaru says, Abudu b'shas hafrosha meisa. So if the first animal got lost, Abuda decides to be mafresh, designates another one, and the first one had been still in a state of avuda, it was still lost when he was mafresh number two, Mesa, the halacha is, the first one is let to die. In which case, if he's now makriv that one outside, he's pater, because it's unsuitable. And the point of the Mishnah is to highlight that only in this case is he exempt, because, as we said, it's unsuitable. The Mishnah means to say like this. Talmud Bavli. That's true only because one went missing while the other one had been. However, in a case where he decided to designate two animals, just in case, right? Just in case one gets lost, he'll have the other one. So in this case, no rejection. Nothing went missing, nothing went lost. In this case, from the get-go, initially, one of them was going to be an oila. That's the halacha. If it's extra, it goes to the oila department, right? Actually, preferably they let it wander and get a blemish, and then it's converted, into funds used to buy an oila. Ultimately, its destination is oila, right? So it's not considered rejected, even if he chooses to be makriv this one over this one. Mikara Ilahi. So in this case, if he were to take this extra animal and do it outside, he is chayav, because it has a proper destiny. It's meant to be used as a korban, although not for chatas. Rather, it's meant to be converted into an oila. As he tells us, asham. So he's talking about an asham, which likewise was unneeded for some reason. The Bezdin instructs the owner, go take it out to the pasture, let it get a blemish, right? Convert it into an oila. Says Rab, you should know, although preferably he meant to go through those steps and not actually be makriv this as an oila. But if he decides to take this extra asham shanita, which was detached, so to speak, sent away l're'iyah for pasturing, he proceeded, he did shchita, without having anything specific in mind, not for Asham, not for Oila, what is the default status of this animal? Kosher l'Oila, is considered an Oila, because ultimately that's its destiny. Likewise, says the Gemara, by the extra carbon chatas. Where initially there were two, there was an extra one. Ultimately, the extra one was destined to be an Oila, or could be converted into an Oila. In this case, it is considered Ro'il Bifnim. It is suitable for Beis HaMikdash purposes. In which case, if it's done outside, it carries the full consequence of Sheichet U'Mala B'chutz. Ask the Gemara, 1 second. You're comparing an extra chatas, which is an akeva, which can't actually be used as an oila. It's an akeva. An oila can't be an akeva. You're comparing it to the case of Rav, the extra asham, which is a zachar to begin with, a male animal, which can be used for an oila. So of course, it has that potential within it, and it's kosher for oila. But here, what's the connection between a female extra animal for the chatat to the carbon oila? Midami hasam asham zachar. There is an extra asham zachar. Certainly, if you shecht it, it has a status of an oila, zachar, because oila too is a zachar. Aval chatas nekeve, but here it's an extra carbon chatas which is a nekeva. What's the connection between that and an oila? Amar B'chia from the town of Justinia. He answers like this. Here too, the extra chatas is a male and suitable as an oila, and therefore if it's done outside, he's chai. B'sar nasi, the goat that a nasi brings as his carbon chatas, and if he was mafresh too, he has one extra. And does it outside, he's chai, because technically that can turn into an oila. And it's meant to be directed to the oila destination. So bottom line is like this. If something's unsuitable, so of course, there's no liability for sheichet malabachutz. But if something is suitable in some way, like the extra chatas, the extra asha, which ultimately is meant to fill in as an oila, in somewhat way, directly, indirectly, if he does it outside his chayv, says the Mishnah, in line with this concept that the halacha of sheichet malabachutz applies strictly to material, to karbanis, which are suitable for Beis HaMikdash processing, but something which is possible, as a blemish, anyways, unsuitable, in which case it's not considered the ro'il lepesach ha'il moed, it's not considered lefnei mishkanash, it's not considered as a proper carbon, in which case there's no liability if he does it outside. Here come some examples. Paras chatas, right? The paraduma, which is called paras chatas. Shesar for chus migita, it's meant to be burnt in the Har Zeisim in a little indentation, a gas, like a little gas typically refers to a wine press or an olive press. Rashi says it just means a makim amak, like this little deep area. So he did it outside that area. It's meant to be done in this crevice, and he did it outside, wrong place. Is he chayav for doing something outside of its? Likewise, the sar which is sent off the mountain on Yom Kippur, and he offered it, outside the Beis HaMikdash as a carbon. In both cases, he's potter shenamar, because these things are not really meant to be processed inside the Beis HaMikdash. Paraduma is meant to be done outside. Likewise, sar mishalech, even if it's done in the wrong way, right? He's potter shenamar vel pesach oyel moed. Why is he liable? Because he failed to bring it. Why is sheichet u'mal b'chutz chayim? Because instead of doing it inside, he did it outside. And we learn that's only because it was meant for the inside, as opposed to these two examples, which in any case is never meant for the Beis HaMikdash per se, rather meant to be processed outside. So there's no liability. Which is not meant for the Pesach. There's no chiv. Here come many more examples of deficient and failed and faulty karbonis, ha'reveya, the animal interacted with him, human, v'nirba was interacted with physically, v'muktzah was designated for idol worship, v'nevad was worship, v'mechir was exchanged for a dog, v'esna given to an immoral woman, v'kilayim, crossbreed, v'treifa, right? As an internal womb. V'yotzeh doifen, born unnatural. Shukib mechutz, all these which are possible to be used as a carbon, is done outside, these potter. Shnema, once again we have a pasuk, and of course the Gemara will ask, why new pasuk? Just included in the previous pasuk. because the underlying concept is the same. He should have brought it to the Pesach El Mishkan Hashem. And we learn, Kol Shein Roy Mishkan Hashem, only something which is meant for Mishkan Hashem. Otherwise, Ein Chayav Bali Mumin, blemished animals as well, whether permanent blemishes, temporary blemishes. Bein Bali Mumin Kavuin, whether it's a permanent condition, Bein and Bali Mumin, even or temporary conditions. In both cases, Shekib Mechutz, if he did it outside his potter, because of the same point. Shimon Omer. Now, Shimon's opinion throughout this whole subject is that even something which is currently unsuitable, but if it will be suitable in the future, it's ro'i for the future, it has potential, such as a balmum, oiver, which will clear up soon, and the animal will be ro'i for a korban. If he does it outside in its current state, although there's no kares, which is the typical consequence for malabachutz, but there is a lav, special isser, which the Gemara will source for us, for all these situations where they still have potential to eventually be used in the Beis Hamikdash. If they're done outside, there's a law. Reb Shimon Omer, Bali Mumin Kavuin Potter. Yeah, if it's a permanent blemish done outside, he's Potter because it has no suitability anymore. Bali Mumin Oivrim, but if it's a temporary condition, Chai B'leisaseh is Oiver Leisaseh. Another example of such is Teirim, a certain type of bird, which is only kosher once they're mature. Shaloi Ge'ezmana, but if it's yet too young, or Uvnei Yain, a little sort of pigeons, which only suitable when they're young. Shavar Zmanan, who are past their time, too old. Both are unsuitable. Shekir Mechutz, if he did it outside his potter. Once again, Shimon disagrees regarding the second case because it has potential suitability in the future. Shimon Omer. B'nei Yain Shavar Zmanan potter. Okay, the ones that are expired are potter, no longer potential for inside. But Toirim, however, Shaloi Ge'ezman, before their suitable time has arrived, B'leisas say there's a leisus if doing them outside because they'll be ro'i in the future. Another example is Yosef Esbenai. Okay, so he has the animal with its offspring. Okay, so the mother and the offspring, and the mother had been shechted that day, which forbids us to do the same to the offspring. And now he did it outside the offspring. Another example is you have an animal who's too young, before its time or before the owner, right, is available to be makriv. He's still tummy, whatever. So these korban is done outside. Again, they're unsuitable, and therefore he's potter. Shimon Omer. Here too, he says, there's a lav because although they're not ro'i now, but they will in the future. Sher of Shimon Omer, because he's in line with his opinion. Kol shu ro'i lachazman, an animal which is ro'i for later. Same. If it's done outside now, there's a lav, but there's no curse. That's his opinion. They disagree, all or nothing. Kol shein ro'i, there's no curse applicable, and there's no either. Let's go back and clarify the case of Mechusas Man. Its time has not yet arrived. What does that mean? Ben Begufi, whether it's too early on account of the animal, it's too young. Right? Let's say, it's too young, or has a blemish, or etc. Right? Or it's still before the 7 days since birth. In any case, too young, too early. Ben Balav. Likewise, it can be too early on account of the owner. For example, what's an example of that? All these people who are tamei, not yet ready for the korban, and one takes their korban and does it outside, too early. They did their chatas or asham outside, patur. These are meant as part of their purification process, which has not yet arrived. However, if one takes their oila or their shlamim, although ideally it should be part of their purification process, which is not yet relevant, but technically they could be used as donation too, they can serve that purpose too, and therefore in that context they're deemed suitable. Oila is saying ushlamim b'chotz is chayav. Now, what about materials which are not really meant for the mizbeach at all, like the meat of a korban? If he does them outside on a mizbeach, is he chayiv? No, of course not. Hamalim, b'sar chatas, the meat of a chatas, b'sar oshim, b'sar kachim kalam, moiser oimer, leftovers of the oimer mincha. All these are meant for human consumption. Shtei alechem, lachma pam, she'ar menachas, leftover of mincha. he offers them on a mizbeach outside, he's completely exempt. What about if he does, we know shchita, zrika, mala b'chutz is chayav. What about if he does other types of functions, korban functions outside? V'ayoytzik, he pours the oil on a mincha outside the Beis Hamikdash. V'apoises, so he splits, slices up cuts up the mincha into pieces. V'aboilel, mixes the mincha v'malech, and he salts the korban materials. V'amenef, or he waves, does trufa outside. V'amagish, he makes contact with the material of the mincha to the corner of a mizbeach outside the Beis Hamikdash. Or he sets up a table with the lechem apanim. V'meitav zaneres, or he prepares, he cleans out the menorah. He does these all outside, right? Or kamitzim, or collects the blood of a korban. All these were done outside b'chutz. He's pater because the chiyuv for b'chutz is limited to shaychet, to zoyrek, and to mal. Likewise, all these activities that we just mentioned have another leniency to them, so to speak. Typically, if a non-kohen izar performs avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, is chayav misa. Likewise, if he's tamei, or if he's missing begadim, bigdei kahuna, or he failed to rinse his hands and feet in preparation, provided it's a bona fide service, certain types, complete services. It's called avodas matana, avodah tama, complete, that end the process, that complete the process, culminating services. But these that we just mentioned do not fit the bill, and therefore if a zar performs all these, he's not chayiv, or if he's tamei, we're missing bigdei kahuna, or there's no liability on account of shalei rechutz, not having washed yadayim reglaim. Now we spoke about different eras in history when sometimes it was permissible to be makriv a korban in your own private altar in your backyard. Sometimes it was not permissible. So it sort of it swung back and forth depending on what was going on a national level. So before the Mishkan had been erected, you were free to do anything. The bamis were perfectly fine. In fact, it wasn't even a kohen requirement. A bechor, a firstborn in the family, he would do the avodah. That was until the Mishkan was built. After the Mishkan was put up, things changed drastically. Out went the Bechorim, in came the Kohanim, out went the Bamis, in came the Mishkan, Nesra Bamis, the Bamis became offline. From now on, the service was performed by Kohanim only. And in fact, it was territorial. You had to do it inside the Mishkan, and Kodesh Kadoshim, so the highest form of karbonis were consumed only inside the Mishkan, inside the curtains, inside the courtyard. The next level, lower level karbonis, throughout the encampment of our nation. That was until they came to a place called Gilgal in Eretz Yisrael. Bola Gilgal, things changed again. Hutra Bamis, the Bamis came online again. But the Kodoshim had to be eaten in the Gilgal area, in the curtains there. But like a shlamim, anywhere you want. Anywhere you want. It's interesting, Rashi points out that there was no Machne Yisrael because it was still busy, capturing Eretz Yisrael, busy, conquering. So there was no set encampment. So throughout Eretz Yisrael, throughout the entire Eretz Yisrael, you can have your kachim kala. Very interesting. Okay, continues the Mokim. It sounds like throughout anywhere in the whole world, but presumably in Eretz Yisrael. Bola Shilei. Okay, next step was Shilei, where they actually had a Mishkan of some sort for many, many years, right? 369 years. Nesra Bamis. Okay, so red light on the Bamis. Now it's time to bring all your karbanis to the central Mishkan. But interestingly, it did not have a proper ceiling. There was no structural roof. It was a base avanim balvad. It was l'matan, had walls, stone walls, but it was covered with vayiriyos milamalam, covered with used to have like a curtain, a material covering. Vayiriyos milamalam, which were the same yiriyos used in the Mishkan and the Midbar, those coverings. Now this location, this phenomena, this Shiloi, this Mishkan Shiloi was described in the pasuk as menucha. And the pasuk says, "Ki levasem ad ata el hamenucha v'al nachla." You haven't yet arrived at menucha and nachla. So menucha was descriptive of Shiloi, which was somewhat of a rest, meaning it was after they finished conquering, capturing, and dividing the land. This was the first stop of two stops, meaning eventually they got to the Nachla, the actual final resting place of the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. So again, the rules changed. Kachikachim nechalim flim and aklayim. The kachikachim you have to eat inside the Mishkan confines. V'kachim kalam masir sheni b'chol haraya. Now, what about the other karbanos? Kachim kalam masir sheni. You could eat it as long as you can still visually see. You can be visually in contact. Isn't that interesting? Being visually in contact is considered, relating to the Mishkan. So that was the halacha for those karbanos. Bo l'noivin givon. Next stop was noivin givon, when Shiloh was destroyed and the Aron was taken away by in the time of Eli, right? So they came to Noiv and then to Givon. Again, at that time, the bames were again permissible. Hudra bames, kachim nechalim flim and aklayim. Now, if you want to bring kachim kalim, you have to come to the Mishkan of Noiv Givon. But kachim kalim b'chol Yisrael, the shlamim and all that, you can do whatever you want because you can do it at your bama, at your convenience. Right? So kachim kadashim, you could only bring to the big bama in Noiv Givon. But kachim kalim, since you could do it anywhere, you could also eat it anywhere. B'chol Yisrael, throughout the cities of Yisrael, throughout the land. And then finally they came to Yerushalayim, Bor Yerushalayim. Nesra bames. Now the bames are asur again, and that was it. Final destination. You've arrived at the final destination. That was called Nachla, right? Heter. That's it. The heter of the bames were gone. Nachla. That was called Nachla. And all the halachas were activated. Kachim kadashim nechalim flim naklayim. Once again, you can only bring karbanos at the Beis HaMikdash. Eat your kachim kadashim inside, and kachim kalam maser sheni in Yerushalayim flim nachayim. Now, what about sheichet umala b'chutz? Right. So, in concept, it only applies when it's asur to do so. When there is a mishkan, there is a Beis HaMikdash, which forbids offering you karbanos elsewhere. Okay, so how did this work? Said the Mishnah. Kol HaKadoshim. Shekdishim b'shar Isra bames. So during the time of Isra bames, he was Magdash HaKarban. Right? So for example, right, as we explained briefly, went back and forth, right? In the time of pre-Mishkan, bames were mutter. When Mishkan came, bames became asur. Then, when they came to Israel, they came to Gilgal, bames were mutter again. Shiloh, bames became asur. Noiv Givon, they became mutter. Yerushalayim became asur, right? So if you magdash a korban, designated a korban when the bames were asur, b'shas Isra bames. If you kriven b'shas Isra bames b'chutz, he takes it outside when the bames is still asur. This is the ultimate isur that we speak about, in the last couple of weeks. Harei elu b'asei, v'lo asei. He's commanded to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. There is a negative commandment against not bringing it, and there's kares. This is the ultimate violation of the Isra, because it had been meant for the Mishkan, and he took it outside when the Mishkan was still online. Okay, what about Hikdishim Shas Edra Bamas? It's Gilgal now, right? So the Bamas are mutter, and he puts aside an animal right now with the intent of doing it outside, which is perfectly fine at this point. By the time he got around to it, the bamas became asur. Times changed, and he was v'ikrivan Isra bamas b'chutz. He took it outside any case. Harela b'aseh v'leis aseh. There's a aseh and a leis aseh, but there's no kares. Ve'echol and kares, no kares. Okay, so we learn from Sukkim, Rashi brings that there's still an isser. Do it outside, but there's no kares. What about hikdishim shas isra bamas? Bamas are asur. Now he's magdish a korban. Presumably meant for the mishkan, right? By the time he got around to do it, there's no more mishkan, and the bamas are activated again. But the Krifin takes this same korban, and he's makriv it outside. B'shas heterabah, when the bamas are mutter. B'shas heterabah. Is it mutter? No, because once the animal was designated, was labeled, and meant for the mishkan, you can't just take it outside, even though currently there is no mishkan. There's an asay, right, against doing so. But there's no lois asay, there's no kares. Because after all, the lois asay and the kares relate to the moment of shechita, which currently is technically permissible. There's no isur bamis. But since the animal had been designated for the mishkan, you got to take it to the mishkan. Okay, now when we speak about the bamis being, an alternate place for akrava, what kind of karbanis? You can take any karban on the bama. Ve'elu kachim krevim b'mishkan. So the following karbanis must be brought to the mishkan. Let's say it's Gilgal time, right? We have a public bama, and you can do it at your private bama. But the following need to be taken to the public bama specifically, even though theoretically you have your own bama. But these are meant for the public. Why? Ve'elu kachim krevim b'mishkan, kachim shig hugdashu l'mishkan. Because when he was magdashim, he designated it for the mishkan. Okay, that's number one. So that has to go to the mishkan. Or karbanis tzibur, likewise public karbanis. Rashi says stam on the mikdash or the mishkan. They're meant for the mishkan. You can't do it in your backyard. Craving a mishkan. And also the karbanis hayachid, but as opposed to the karbanis hayachid, private karbanis b'bama could be done at your bama. What about karbanis hayachid shehugdu shul mishkan? Your own private, korban that you would magdish for the sake of the mishkan. You're kiva b'mishkan. As we said a minute ago, you meant to do it at the mishkan as per your intention. But after the fact, but the evidence, if you did it privately, he's patur. But as Rashi points out, you shouldn't be doing that. So there's no punishment, and the korban is kosher. But the fact is, you promised, you committed to bring it to the bigger amish, the more official, formal place. You got to follow you got to keep your word, right? Kasher nadarta, tishma vasisa, right? As per your promise. So technically, it's okay on account of the korban, but you have not fulfilled your obligation completely. Okay, now in terms of differentiations, suppose it was legal to bring a korban at the bama gdoila, at the bama ktana. Any differences in terms of the process, in terms of the form of service, in terms of requirements? What's the difference between the mizbech that was in Gilgal and Noive Givain, the public mizbech as opposed to the private mizbech in your backyard? Many differences. Smicha, the halacha the owner leans on the animal, that only applies to bamas tzibur. Shchitas safin, the halacha that you shech the kachik kadashim in the north. Matan saviv. So in terms of applying the blood, right, you apply it on the two opposite corners of the diagonally opposite corners of the mizbeach. You don't do that in the private bama. You just do one application with nufa, waving the carbon material of the menachis. Valgasha, contacting the corner of the mizbeach. This only apply in a public setting, not in a private arrangement. Says based on the psukim, you don't bring a mincha in a bama setting at all, even a public bama. Okay, so unless it's a Beis Hamikdash or it's a mishkan like Shiloi, right? You don't bring a mincha, not in Gilgal, not in Noive Givain, and certainly not in a private bama. Any other difference between a public bama or a private bama? Yeah, v'kiyun. Does a kohen have to do the avodah only in a public bama? not in a private setting. B'dei sharis, wearing the special attire. Avikon, klei sharis, the holy vessel. V'rech mechoyach. So if it's in a public doila, you have to take it straight on the mizbeach and burn it. You can't just roast it first and then put it on the mizbeach. It has to generate that pleasant odor on the mizbeach itself, but that only applies to a public bama, mechitzel adamim. In a bama gdoila, there's that sort of divider between the upper part of the mizbeach and the lower part, in terms of placement of the blood on the wall of the mizbeach. V'richot tzedam raglaim, rinsing the hands and feet, that only applies to bama gdoila. Aval, but regarding the following halachis, they apply equally all around. Hazman, time, expiration dates. Right? So Rashi says this relates to the halacha of pigul. He had in mind to do the offering in a week's time, becomes pigul. That applies to bama gdoila or bama katan. V'anoiser, leftovers, right? Past the deadline. V'tamei, a person who's tamei being involved, whether in terms of being makriv, in terms of eating the karbanos. These restrictions, these halachas, these isurim, apply equally to a bama gdoila, public bama, even a private bama. Shavim b'zeh. Okay, let's just summarize the Gemara and the Mishnah. So we spoke about the halacha of sheikhut malabachutz only applies to a carbon which is suitable, as opposed to something which had been rejected, which is unsuitable because of inherent deficiency, a mum, or whether it's a matter of the wrong timing. And that Rosh Shimon disagrees. He says if it still has potential to become roy in the future, there's a leis asay, although there's no kares. But there is a leis asay. We continued and spoke about various carbon materials. There's no din of malabachutz on that. Various types of activities, of akrav activities, which are not deemed liable for malabachutz. We spoke about the sort of back and forthing. Sometimes the bamis were mutter, in which case there was no issue bringing a carbon out there. And sometimes bamis were aser, notably when there was a mishkan, when there was a mishkan shiloi, when there was a beis hamikdash. In those times, the halacha of sheikhut malachutz is activated in full swing, full force. We learned about some variations, karbanos that were hukdash at this point and makriv at that point. So sometimes there's a asay leisay and kares. Sometimes it's just an asay and a leisay. And sometimes there's only an asay. And sometimes it's just a matter of keeping your word, but the carbon is still kosher. And then we spoke about the difference between the bama gdoila and bama ketana. And then we have the common denominators, which are zman, meiser, and tamei. All the best to you, and atzlach.